morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am very honored to speak in front of you today and to participate in this very timely conversation about maritime security. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Now, it's never easy to be the last speaker in any conference or panel or forum because everything has been said. And even more difficult for me is I agree with everything that they've said. So what I plan to do for my very short discussion is just to tweak the argument a little bit. So Professor Thayer offered us several ways in which navies can contribute to the creation and maintenance of an ASEAN maritime community. Implicit in his paper is the argument that a maritime security community helps strengthen ASEAN's political and security community. So in this sense, a maritime security community is a crucial factor in the operation of an overarching security community in the region. This, no doubt, is a valid argument. But to this, I will add that the question is not really how to create a community. Instead, the emphasis must be on how to maintain it. ASEAN observers agree that since its inception, half a century ago, formal institutions enabled peaceful interaction amongst its members, and the practice of the non-use of force has since then pervaded intra-ASEAN relations. Other observers rightfully note, however, that despite the overlapping arrangements that characterize ASEAN, and despite how much we meet the Deutschen criteria for security communities, we are off by just a tiny bit. So we have the rudiments, the structure of a community in this part of the world. We have created a community, but the question really is how to maintain it, how to keep it going. Professor Thayer gave us valuable directions on how to do this. So what I will do in this discussion is to build on those within the framework, the academic framework of security communities. If, according to Karl Deutsch, the main advocate of the concept of security communities, the two main features of a pluralistic community are peaceful interaction and the non-use of force, then I will offer an account of, first, what ASEAN has done so far in terms of meeting those criteria, and second, how to maintain the momentum towards maintaining an ASEAN community writ large. A short detour is required at this point in order to put into context what Deutsch meant by a security community. The textbook definition, and this has been explained by the other speakers as well, of such a community is a group of states that have shared interests and identities, not necessarily a group of states with a shared threat. The characteristics of this phenomenon are that these states experience regular and substantial transaction flows, which help spread transnational values, develop shared understandings, and eventually generate mutual trust. Moreover, a security community helps states to develop a greater mutual interdependence and responsiveness. Feelings and the creation of more regular interactions. The more they interact, the more likely they are to abandon the use of force in settling disputes amongst them. The literature also details two types of security communities. One is called amalgamated, where participating units formally merge politically, while the other is called pluralistic, where members retain their independence and sovereignty. ASEAN is considered as a pluralistic security community that exhibits the key features of peaceful interaction and the non-use of force. Now, peaceful interaction is the ability to manage conflict within the group peacefully. This entails that members resort to existing mechanisms on conflict management or resolution. What we've done so far in ASEAN in view of ensuring peaceful interaction is the creation of our three pillars, namely the AEC, for instance, and the sociocultural community. The AEC, the economic community, set out in its blueprint the following characteristics: highly integrated and cohesive economy, competitive, innovative, dynamic, and displaying enhanced connectivity and sectoral cooperation. The focus on a resilient, inclusive, people-oriented, and people-centered ASEAN is reiterated in the ASCC, whose aim is to engage the people, ensure that the ASEAN project remains inclusive and sustainable. Apart from these two pillars, formal institutions have also been in place to ensure peaceful interaction amongst its members, topmost of which is the TAC, which Professor Thayer also underscored. How to keep these pillars going, however, will require two things. First, the ASEAN Declaration on the Role of the Civil Service, which has been signed in the recent summit, must be implemented. Likewise, the long overdue ASEAN Instrument on the Rights of Migrant Workers, which is crucial to the AEC, must also be executed. Turning now to the second feature of security communities, which is the absence of the use of force, we can argue that ASEAN has also exhibited this since 1967. While there may be some reports on the military buildup of certain members, the use of force as a means to settle disputes has so far not been used. Like the thrust of peaceful interaction, the non-use of force is also embodied in one of the three pillars of the ASEAN community. The Security and Political Community, the ASPC's blueprint, captures the importance of a rules-based community of shared values and norms in order to engender a cohesive, peaceful, stable, resilient, and outward-looking region with a shared responsibility for comprehensive security. Professor Thayer highlighted the institutions and arrangements that are already in place to usher in the smooth operation of a security community, of which a maritime security community plays a crucial role. Again, all these entail that we have already created the structure of a security community. How to keep this going is the question. In order to make sure that the non-use of force is practiced, the region needs to face the issue of maritime security. President Duterte's pragmatic and restrained approach in regard to the South China Sea issue may serve him well in the operationalization of the guidelines for hotline communications, but a more robust stance is needed in getting to the finish line in regard to other issues, particularly issues like protecting the marine environment, improving search and rescue operations, addressing piracy and armed robbery against ships at sea, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, and terrorism and extremism. All the issues that Professor Thayer mentioned about the issues that face the littoral areas of ASEAN. So for all intents and purposes, ASEAN is already a security community. We are not moving towards it because we are already in it. We've done it. But true to constructivist logic, the project is an ongoing process of social interaction. The more we do, the more that we improve the quality, the depth, and the strength of this security community. So while we can pat ourselves on the back for having created something, we cannot sit back yet. The work continues and will and must continue if we want to maintain the success that we have achieved so far. Thank you very much.